Hello everyone, welcome to this Q&A session for the second New Nordic Voice short films programme, which is part of the 31st edition of the Nordisk Panorama Film Festival. The films are not only nominated for New Nordic Voice, they also have the chance to win the Audience Award. So please don't forget to vote online after this session. My name is Sam Groves and I have the pleasure today of talking with Nora Tvedt, Director of Fucking Adopted, Rasmus Nyholm Schmidt, Director of Mount Everest, Lauri Pulkkinen, one of the directors of Afterparty, Daniel Milton, Director of Wasteland, and Fanny Rosell, Director of A House. So what I'm going to do is I'll go to you individually to chat about your films. So Nora, we're going to start with you. It's a really interesting film in terms of how it's structured. And after rewatching it yesterday, I wondered how difficult it was to decide upon the starting point and then how you kind of put the edit together after that.
Yeah, because the film is shot in one little box in a studio, so it was a really big editing job, and we started with the beginning, which we wanted Teresa, who is the main character, to she was having a hard time to say "I'm adopted" out loud, and we wanted to start with this scene because it shows how difficult it was for her and how much I was pressuring her, maybe too much at the time. But we thought it was good to show that she was. It was something that was very difficult for her.
Well, I mean, that's one of my other questions, really, to like, how easy was it to persuade her to come on board with this film? I mean, like you say, it can't have been easy at all. And did she have reservations during the process as well?
I think it was mostly before we were shooting the film, because she didn't know what she was getting herself into. But since we were so close friends and we had known each other for such a long time, we talked with each other, and she lived with me while we were shooting, so we had a very good dialogue. So I hope she felt safe while we were shooting and that she felt taken care of.
And has your relationship with her changed since making the film?
Yes, I think we have, since we never had talked about adoption before together, I feel like we have become such stronger friends, and we are completely honest with each other with everything. So I think it was something that was very good for our friendship, and I feel like we are even closer now.
Yeah, maybe that's what we should do with friends who we can't get close to, or we feel like we can't get close to, make a film with them.
Yeah, it's a good excuse to get to know someone on a deeper level.
Sure. And how difficult was it for you as well? It can't have been easy for you making this film about a challenging subject, and also, I mean, you're part of the film, but you're also directing it. So was that a challenge as well?
Yeah, of course, it's a little bit difficult to both be in front of the camera and also had to think about what's going on, like how it's going to be shooting. But I think it was very, it wasn't that. I had a very good crew and a very great photographer and production designer and a sound guy. And they all were very supportive. So when we were shooting it, I felt completely safe. So that was a nice crew that helped me.
Great. And in terms of the crew, I mean, you mentioned the big box. Did you have people making that set for you? Was that a design that you came up with? And was it, in the film, you mentioned it's perhaps meant to reflect some of Teresa's personality? Was that true?
Yes. Me and the production designer, we sat down and we talked about Teresa and what she was like, and then we tried to make a box that was going to symbolize her. So yeah, that was the thought of that.
Well, that strikes me as pretty amazing. that you were able to do that. And just finally, just in terms of the research that you did going into this project, were you looking at other films which dealt with the subject of adoption, or were there certain documentaries which inspired you, which you looked up, or?
One thing that I was thinking about is what a lot of films about adoption is about traveling somewhere and to find your biological parents and wanting to feel whole and complete. And what I wanted with this film was that it was going to be set in one place, and that which could show that you are whole where you are, and you don't need to go somewhere to find your to be whole. It's good to, if someone wants to find their biological parents, that's completely, I understand that. But I myself, as a younger Nora, maybe had wanted to see a film that was about more like the questions you get and that you're whole as you are. So, I was also very inspired by studio films. So I watched, one of my inspiration was Carl and Niels, which is a Danish graduation film from the Danish film school, which I really like.
Okay, I don't know that one. I'll have to look it up. Nora, I think it's a great film, and of course by the end of it I was in tears, as you were in the film. Yeah, I think it's a terrific achievement, so well done, and thank you for joining us. Okay, Rasmus, I'm going to move on to you, if that's okay. Your film Mount Everest, I'm intrigued as to know why you wanted to tell this particular story. You wrote it as well, right? And starred in it.
Small role.
A cameo.
Yeah, that's good.
But why did you want to tell this story about this Iranian piano teacher? How did you come up with it?
The simple version is that he was my piano teacher. He still is, actually.
Okay.
And I had been struggling with another story, full fiction, or a full-length feature, and it didn't work out, and I couldn't find the directions, and I was a bit confused. And then I was sitting playing piano with Aya, and then all of a sudden I thought, this is actually the best way to start. I really like this man. I like him as a character. I think he has a way of dealing with things that I like, and there's something tragic, comically about him. Actually, at the end of this piano class, I said to him, "I've been thinking about this idea for quite a while, which wasn't true. I might want to make a film about you, and it should be about this and this and this. What do you think?" And before the sentence was finished, he said, "Yes, I'll do it. I would love to star in the film." I would, yes. So he was very eager to be on the stage, basically. I think then in some weird backwards way, I have understood how much sense there was for me to make a film like this, and how in some way Aya's story and my own story intertwines, or affects each other, or has similarities. So Aya, he became my, I don't know. So anyway, that was the starting point.
So I mean, he's a natural. So I'm amazed that he's your actual piano teacher. Did he have any kind of acting experience prior to this?
No.
Wow.
But the what this has all turned out to be, the bigger story now is actually I'm 2 days away from making the final shootings of chapter 2 in Aya's life. So now it has moved up to be actually maybe a full-length film, but I want to tell it in 5 chapters. So what you have seen, all of you, is the first chapter. Then 2 years later, we are together with this character again. Then I'm going to follow him over a period of maybe 7 years, and then in 5 chapters. And then if it makes sense, then we'll put it together in. Of course, there's similarities to Boyhood, but for me, it's also just a very there's the practical part in I can make short films because I think that's manageable. It's manageable to get the funds. It's manageable for me to go out and overcome 30 pages and write them and really rewrite this whole process. It's manageable for me to go out and shoot it. So it's been so now basically Aya is becoming my film school. And the story is also that Aya is playing a fictional character, but it has resemblances to his own life. So what I'm trying to achieve is that the emotions that you feel Aya going through, they have as similarities to emotions in a documentary, because they are basically Aya's own emotions. And the revelations, you know, there's these different feelings that Aya feels in the films. They are his own, and I think so. There's a process moving on next to the film that we're shooting that has to do with Aya's own life, and then we have this role play fiction going on here. So it's all it makes a lot of sense for us, but it sounds a bit weird, maybe.
It sounds interesting. I'd be really interested to see the following chapters. I found the film incredibly well balanced. I felt like you were bringing in these subtle elements of humor, but there were, you're tackling kind of some topics which are quite heavy: poverty, immigration, strained family relationships, that type of thing. But you do it in a way where you kind of hold back, I felt. Was that, and for me, it's like a much more powerful film because of that. Was that something you intended to do when you were making it?
Yeah, but it also came in the editing, of course. So the thing about Aya, I think, is that he has a very overwhelming energy, and that's also why we film it in these tableaus almost. So it's like the camera doesn't move, it's just like it's there. And then he can be this somewhat weird, somewhat comic, somewhat all these kind of things character. And then it's actually very serious because the camera is just like this. And so yes, it's very intentional to have these very sharp cuts where there's this, what happened in between this scene and this scene we don't know, but now the emotions have changed, and then that leaves a lot to the audience to try and be a part of their inner conflict. So I think that the whole conflict becomes bigger in some way, and it becomes
I guess the editing, your expertise in that previously probably helped with that as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I think it was interesting for me because changing from editor to director, what I found was that I had to struggle as much or twice as much with my own film as I do with all other films. But when I started writing it, then I had this idiotic idea that I basically wouldn't have to edit this very much, because I would make a Haneke and then it would just be like putting the pieces together and that would be done, which was so far from the reality. I made it and it was like, wow, this is shit. And then, okay, fuck, I have to work here. And then I worked and I worked and I worked and I flipped around and I threw scenes away and I did a lot of things. And then I also shot some extra things to make it work. And then it worked. And then it was like, that's just how it is. And it's the same with this film I'm making now. You just have to struggle to get it to get it right. And I really hope that I didn't have to do it. I was just a natural born director who could go out and film. But it's a very nice.
I don't think there's many of those, and I think
exactly.
the struggle was worth it. Rasmus, thanks very much.
Thanks so much.
Lauri, we're going to come to you. You made this film as part of a group of 5 people. Can you tell us a little bit about that collaborative process and how that worked?
Well, at first we were like 3 people. Me, Herta, and Ulrika, and we kind of like had the idea and we put it together. And then Janne and Sanna came because Janne was good at photographing. We had to do a lot of like with the microscope shooting and those kinds of things. And I knew Sanna that she was good at growing things. So they just like came along, and then it was hard to like put who is directing, and because we were doing such like mixed work, very messy and very very mixed. So everyone is now credited as a director.
Okay, and was there any conflict during the process, or was it relatively?
Yes. But I think like a conflict is, if you work it out well, it can be like quite creative.
Yeah, absolutely.
We are all.
And in terms of the concept and the narrative and the ideas behind the story, where did that come from?
I don't want to sound like a douchebag, but I think it was me.
Okay.
But we work it out together. The idea just about to like maybe a little bit of post-humanistic idea about that it's not about humans, it's about non-humans and like the beauty of those things. I introduced that idea to Herta and Ulrika, and then we started to like mold it. And
the super close-ups of the bacteria and the fungi, how were they shot? And I saw a credit at the end for the biophilia department at the university.
Yeah.
So how did that work?
Well, it worked because I was working there. I was teaching bio art classes to kids, but also to the university students. And there was the kind of boss of the laboratory, Marika. We couldn't have made it without her. So how it happened was we went to the laboratory with our gear and with all the other stuff, and Marika helped us out, and we learned lots of stuff from like other places and kind of lots of improvisation. And I think it was very similar to like cooking. But we went there and started with like, of course, it takes a while to grow those bacteria and then how they react to stuff. And then most of the time it's just waiting, because what happens, it's very small, and then at some point something happens and everybody, oh my God, now what's happening? And then we later act like, because of course there's the animation part also. So we are thinking about how can we add this to the animation and how does it like all fit in.
I think you oh, sorry.
I don't know if I answered your question.
You did a good job of it. I think you merged the animation and those kind of those super close-ups really well, and yeah, it's really impressive how you stitched it all together. I think we're running out of time, so I better move on. But thank you so much, Lauri.
Thank you.
Daniel, I'm going to move on to you now. This was your first film. Can you tell us about your relationship with Värmland County?
Well, I didn't have any to begin with. I had an exhibition in Arvika, which is in the middle of Värmland, as a painter, and that's where I discovered these people driving around. So my relationship to Värmland is now it's very good, but before that it was non-existent.
And the film starts with this quote from this academic who's basically slagging off Värmland with a place of no worth, describing it as a wasteland.
Yeah.
How did you come across that quote, and did you ever try and get in touch with that academic?
No, I didn't. I think I've been filming for about a year, or maybe less, but I've been filming for a while, and then I heard this quote and found it very bizarre, and I thought that this is the conflict that I need for the film to jump off, or to have something to start with, or to play with, and because I wanted to show their view,
which is the complete opposite of that quote, really,
yeah.
Isn't it? And so, in terms of like, so you met them whilst you had this exhibition there. Were you just intrigued by them with these amazing old American cars driving around, and you just went up to them and started talking to them? And
no, I just took a lot of pictures, and I didn't think about making anything about it. I mean, it was the phenomenon. I mean, I didn't know that it existed anymore. I mean, they're young and driving around in these old cars, and I was just amazed. So it took almost a year before I got wanted to do something. So, and I started out as a still photographer, so I followed them for 2 years with my camera before I started filming. So
wow, okay.
I know that.
So I mean, I guess I was going to ask you about how you earned their trust, but I guess 2 years taking photos with them, you're going to build up relationships, and they're going to trust you to portray them in a way which is honest and truthful.
Yeah, I was already home when I started film. I mean, it was different when I was shooting them with my still camera. It was only at nighttime, so everybody was drunk and it was party, and I mean, it was quite easy, but it was a good way to get to know them. Mm-hmm. So it was a different thing, of course, filming them in daylight at their jobs and not with like alcohol involved.
Yeah, I can imagine. They at the end of the film, a couple of them talk about the freedom and the relaxed nature of living in Värmland. But I wondered if as you as a perhaps an outsider, did you get that sense that anyone could just be how they wanted, or was there some opposition to perhaps the way they lived their lives?
Sorry, if I believe that.
If you believe that there is, like, it is a place where you can just be free and do what you want and without anyone caring.
Well, I mean, they live the life that they want to live, so they can obviously be free. I don't know if I could move there and do the same thing, maybe, but there are people thinking. I mean, not everybody's doing what they're doing, so not everybody's happy with them driving around and listen to loud music.
I see, yeah. And I felt very uplifted from the film, and I love the journey that you go on throughout it. Was it like, for you, as it being your first film, was it a positive experience, and do you want to carry on making films?
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's a slow process. I live with a documentary filmer, so I know that it's a slow process and it takes time, and I learned that myself. But it's a very rewarding thing to do, and I love to get to know people I would never meet.
Sure.
I mean, without my camera, I would never have met these guys, and I love them.
Well, I think that comes across in the film. But yeah, I'm glad to hear that you're going to continue making films.
I hope so.
Really impressive film. Daniel, thanks very much. Okay, Fanny, we'll move on to you to finish off with talking about documentaries and slow processes. How was the process for you, and how long did this project take?
I first got the idea, I think like 1 year or 2 years before I started to film, but I initiated the project in February and started filming in September. And I think we filmed for like a half year, maybe more. So it was a slow process.
Yeah. And can you just tell us a bit about the house, about the history, how you came to discover it, and why you wanted to make a film about it?
So it's Sweden's oldest and largest co-living accommodation with 300 tenants, all of them women. So it's actually like started out with two sisters that initiated this house. I think like 100 years ago or so. But I first got to know about the house because I bought shares from a woman who lived there. And when I was there the first time, I realized that this wasn't like a normal apartment building. So I started to ask her about like, what is this place and who lives here? And then I got so intrigued because it's so special. And I started to talk about the house with everyone that I met, and no one knew about it. So I thought it was interesting that it existed, but no one knew that you could live there.
And the kind of, I guess, the crux of your film is about this, you know, young people and older people, two different generations who are living in the house, and there being these conflicts. Were you on one side or the other, or were you able to be completely objective throughout?
I tried to not get involved, but of course I spent a lot of much time there, so of course you do in some way, but all of us in the team tried not to like take sides. We really didn't want the film to have like a clear answer or take any sides, so we tried to stay out of it, but I don't know if we succeeded.
I think I mean the how I like viewed the film was that you did a good job of that.
Thank you.
I guess there's elements where you might be prodding in terms of perhaps when the woman's reading out that letter she received, which after they have sex really loud and they get complaints about it. Yeah, that might have been a comment on something, but no, I thought you do a really good job of that. But in terms of making relationships with the people there, was that easy? Did you have much objection from anyone there about you making this film? Because I guess this is a place where people live. It's quite intimate to them.
Sorry, I didn't get the question.
But did you get any opposition to making the film?
I thought it was like a sensitive subject to film in 300 people's home. So it was very like, first I contacted like the board and everything first. So I think I did a very thorough job. So I got like clearance and everything to be there and film there. But of course, I would say most of them were happy about the film, but not everyone, of course, because so many who lives there. So not everyone could be happy, but I would say most.
And have they had an opportunity to see the final film?
I had a screening when I was done for the whole house. Whoever wanted to come, not everyone came, but I think like almost 50 of the tenants came or more. So they have seen
Was
the film.
Was that a bit nerve-wracking?
Yeah, I was like nervous for months before. I was really, really nervous. But all the main characters had seen it like 3 times before, but not like for the whole house. But I was really, really nervous. So I actually had my photographer with me, so I wasn't alone. But yeah, it was really nervous.
Good idea to bring a colleague on board.
Yeah.
I can't imagine there were too many objections. I think it's a really great film. So well done. We're up to about half an hour, so I need to wrap this up here.
Yeah.
But just to say a big thank you to all of you. Usually at this point of a Q&A, I take you for a drink or whatever. Sadly, we can't do that this time. But I hope we're able to have a Q&A somewhere else at some point in the future, and I'll try and get you that drink. So thank you for participating. Thank you to the audience for watching. Please remember that there are loads of other interesting films. Spread the word about the festival. There's lots to watch, and don't forget to vote for the Audience Award. Thanks again, guys, and I'll see you soon.